Welcome, Dustin, to the Biohacker Babes. How are you doing?
I am incredible today. Thank you so much, Renee. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Great. I love that answer. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a blast of a conversation. We were just quickly catching up that we briefly met in Vegas at A4M last year. And I've actually been using the products that we're going to get into soon for a long time, I think since like 2014. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and to bring it to our audience. So to give away the big surprise, we're going to be talking a lot about human growth hormone today. And Lauren and I were talking before we jumped on. We're like, I think the average person, when they hear human growth hormone, they might think like bodybuilders in the gym, putting on muscle. I'm just going to assume that that's where like the average person would think or would go. But we would love to get into all the other amazing health benefits, longevity, anything in the anti-aging space, metabolic health, sleep, hormones. And obviously there's a lot of controversy around synthetic versus non-synthetic, which I want to pick your brain about. But to just kick it off and keep it like really simple for everyone, what is human growth hormone in case they haven't even heard of that? Like, what is it? What does it do in the body?
So that's a really good intro because most people, you're 100% on target where most people actually, they hear the word human growth hormone and like, if they're not a bodybuilder or if they're not like a crazy gym freak, they kind of freak out or they shy away because the stigma and the word on the street, for lack of a better term, is they think bodybuilder, they think, overgrown of muscle, they think massive amount of, side effects and problems. But to break it down, it's important for people to understand that human growth hormone is a natural hormone that is created in not only men, but women. And it is what is considered a master hormone. So forget all the bodybuilding stuff for sake of the conversation and understand that this is a master hormone that is responsible for processes in your body ranging from metabolic function to immune function to wound healing, accelerated healing, stress, fatigue, depression, anxiety, neurological disorders. Like all of these things can be tied back to human growth hormone and or the lack of human growth hormone. So kind of throw all those preconceptions away and hop on board and understand what we're talking about. But that's human growth hormone is your master hormone. It's not testosterone. It's not estrogen, which are sex dominant. Those are sex hormones. Human growth hormone is one of the most basic, most primal, most important hormones in men and women.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So we all have it. We all need it. And if we're looking at the spectrum of aging, when does it come into play? When is it highest in life? Like kids, teenagers versus adults versus the elderly population? What are we seeing in changes over time?
Sure. So human growth hormone's main function when you're a child is when it starts to peak through childhood, puberty, etc., is literally for the growth of your body, the growth of your bones, the bone density. I mean, literally growing, height, everything, right? So human growth hormone peaks right about the end of puberty. So early 20s, people hit the end of puberty differently, right? 18, 19, 20, 21, some people later, 22, 23. Either way, as soon as puberty is done, just consider that human growth hormone is now on its decline. So every single day, every single year after your body finishes puberty, it is now in a decline, sometimes by 50% by the age of 35. Like not 70, 35 years old. So that is why individuals, you hear the term, I just feel like I've hit this wall. Well, congratulations. You're just now learning what you feel like now that these hormones are on this steep decrease. It typically happens around 40, 45, because now we're getting even lower where you're starting to have like these phantom pains. There's a lot of stress, anxiety that it's involved. You're gaining weight in areas you didn't ever gain before, or you like, quote unquote, can't lose it, or you have quote unquote problem areas, all massive signs of low growth hormone.
So are there anything, or is there anything like in our environment or lifestyle factors that contribute to faster declining human growth hormone, or it's completely just a natural process of aging?
Well, it is a natural process of aging, but yeah, there's going to be things that are always going to inhibit your body's ability to naturally secrete hormones, no matter what hormone that is. But specifically talking about human growth hormone, yeah. And here's the answer nobody likes to hear. Not getting enough sleep, poor nutrition, lack of diet and exercise, like lack of exercise regimen, all those things that I don't know help you in everyday everyday life is going to be the very similar answer. There's really cool ways that you can help boost natural human growth hormone, but they're the same answer. It's a proper adequate sleep, which a lot of people don't know declines every decade after you finish puberty. The quality of your sleep, the amount of sleep that you get, the time you spend in your deepest parts of sleep, which is where your hormones are secreted, all goes down as you age. Poor diet, lack of exercise, those will all speed up the human growth hormone decline, and definitely won't help you to make more or keep it.
Yeah. So doing all the fundamentals, diet,
Basic
rest, exercise, stress reduction. Are there any genetic factors? Of course, those are all epigenetic, but
some people are literally born without human growth hormone, or it's called human growth hormone deficiency syndrome, which is actually why the synthetic stuff was ever created. So the synthetic stuff was created in the 60s. It used to be pulled out of human cadavers, bodies. Okay. It was a life-changing drug, right? Can you imagine? I think I can make a fair assessment on this phone call after meeting you very briefly that, none of us here happen to suffer from human growth hormone deficiency. We live, relatively normal lives. We're normal in stature. We're healthy human beings, at least topically that we can tell, right? So we're not suffering from that. Can you imagine what it would be like to be a child and lack the ability to actually grow? Right. So it's a very powerful, it's a phenomenal drug that was created. Absolutely has a phenomenal place in the proper medical application. And then anyways, as it became more popular and starts to work, well, what else does human growth hormone do? It literally has the ability to multiply and differentiate cells in your body, which is, you can literally age in reverse, right? So if you can create more cells that are no longer replicating as quickly, like, I don't know, collagen cells in your face. Well, guess what? You can slow down wrinkles. You can slow down the way your skin and the elastin in your skin replicates. Our skin literally falls from our face and starts to sag because the multiplication and the differentiation of cells like collagen, elastin, and fibroblasts slows down. So basically you're getting older faster than your cells actually replicate. Human growth hormone helps those cells to replicate. So as we get in through, the decades proceed, people always can find really great uses for different, drugs. Sometimes it's taken too far in some cases, specifically with this, which is where that kind of bodybuilder, dropping dead, walking from the gym in a parking lot comes into play, because those things happen when things are overdone.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, you just mentioned so many motivations in our age group that would potentially want to take this stuff you said wrinkles, like say no more. We want to get rid of that. But
I know.
To go back to what you said about childhood and maybe some children not making it, I actually have a very dear friend who was told that her growth was going to be stunted. She was only going to grow to be 4'9", which, would provide an interesting lifestyle, I suppose. And so she was given HGH. And she believes that this led to several autoimmune conditions that she now has. And she's struggled with excess weight that she's never been able to take off since that time. She took it in 7th grade. Is that something that you hear commonly?
So I wouldn't say that you hear it commonly. I will tell you that I always like to approach these types of questions very specifically and make sure that for anybody listening, that, this is not medical advice for you. If you happen to be, struggling with this, you need to speak to your physician. However, there are plenty of cases where synthetic human growth hormone use over long periods of time. I have no data for children and children's studies. Okay. But for data for adults, extended use can actually lead to, this is the synthetic stuff, can lead to the exact issues you're trying to fix, specifically insulin sensitivity issues. So you just talked about weight. If you overuse certain hormone drugs, insulin sensitivity, or, the lack of sensitivity to insulin, how your body utilizes food, is a real symptom, is a real side effect. Meaning, you can actually, people take this stuff for weight loss and then they end up gaining weight 10 years down the road because it negatively impacts them for the long run. Similarly with, I can't speak on the immune function issues. I know how human growth hormone works with immune function and how it, spurs the growth of immunoproductive cells. However, I don't know about any data of extended use to cause any type of autoimmune type issue, but it could exist. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. So it probably, there's something out there that could potentially exist.
Yeah, hypothesis. I'm not sure that it's been
Sure.
validated, but
Yeah.
interesting to note.
Yeah. If you got a study, send it our way. If somebody's listening, they're like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Dude, email me 100%.
Oh,
Go to
yeah.
my social media, send me a PDF. I'd love to read it.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild that something that is almost like the fountain of youth can at some point almost reverse what it's doing. Well, when it's synthetic. Is that some of like is it the feedback loop? Like what's the problem with the synthetic version?
Well, there's a host of different problems potentially. Human growth hormone use, actually one of the main side effects, if you're getting a little bit too much, is you get carpal tunnel syndrome. A lot of people don't know that. Your hands and wrists will feel weird. Your wrists will get weak. It's crazy. Insulin sensitivity is a really big one. You have to remember that when you're taking a synthetic drug, your body doesn't know how to naturally shut off uses of synthetic drugs, right? They only know how to clear them as toxins. So when you're taking a synthetic hormone, you're replacing your natural production, but you also, more importantly, can push your body into what is called an abnormal levels, which is how they test for drug use in athletics. They don't actually test for the drug in your blood. They look for abnormalities. So when you push your body past its natural ability, that is also where you start to get into a lot of nasty areas. So meaning my point being, when I started that little rant, was if you're gonna multiply and differentiate muscle cells, well, guess what? Your heart's a muscle. And if you start to get an enlarged heart, well, now you're looking at, cardiac arrhythmias, and you're looking at, your heart exploding. That is an extreme case, but it happens. It has happened.
Yeah. Oh, too much of a good thing is always possible. Even testosterone replacement. Right? We can see 100%.
Do people know what happens when you take too much testosterone replacement? Number one, you're on it for life. I know, I don't know if you're listening. Yeah. I'm in Florida, and TRT is that is normal. TRT is aspirin in this state. Okay. I don't, what did I do? I hit a chord here.
It probably is in Vegas as well. So,
oh, dude. It's why wouldn't it be a popular drug? You're going to tell me you can offset a lot of my metabolic issues. And you can offset what I look like in the mirror if you add in this easy thing, which it's so easy, right? I just take an injection or a couple times a week, and then, it increases, or I can take a cream. I'm not saying there isn't good applications for testosterone replacement. I think in very small doses, if you medically need it, sure, go for it. I don't use it. I don't like it. I don't ever want to be on it. Number one reason is, once you're on it, and you're on it for good. So it also leads to terrible things in men. You grow breasts. It's that's a huge plastic surgery down here is gynecomastia surgery for men, literally removing breast tissue. Because remember, when you increase testosterone and you do it sometimes at abnormal levels, well, what happens? Your estrogen, men forget they have estrogen in their bodies. They do. And women, you also have testosterone in your bodies, just small amounts. When you increase that testosterone, your body will naturally increase its estrogen. Well, when you increase estrogen in the body, what happens? You grow breasts. It is what it is. Your testicles also ascend. They do not descend, meaning they shrink, because you're no longer going to create and produce natural testosterone. So we're kind of getting into the entire reason why my company exists. We basically, are trying to give men and women alternatives to synthetic exogenous hormones, or alternatives to prescription medications that, if they're not interested, like I am my own customer. I was a customer before we even bought the company. I'm not interested in taking a needle. I'm not interested in being on a drug for the rest of my life. So this was kind of a godsend to us. And that's what a lot of the passion is of why we even, my parent company that I own, even acquired BioProtein Technology in the first place.
Yeah. It just sounds like a lot of wasted cash flow. It's so interesting. And, on the show, we talk about supporting your body's natural healing abilities. And it sounds like your company is doing that. I'm just curious, was this flawed science? Was it were we not observing the science in the right way? At some point they thought that synthetic HGH was really helping. We're just not looking downstream enough, or long-term enough.
I think it still helps in a lot of ways. I don't think it's a bad drug. I'm not personally, my own personal worldview, and I don't speak for everybody in this company, and I don't speak for the company entirely. I speak for myself as a personal individual, that I don't necessarily believe in utilizing pharmaceutical drugs right off the bat. I don't use them. I don't even take aspirin. I hate Tylenol. It's only in rare cases or extreme cases where I like to include medical intervention. I love medicine. It's great for, I mean, dude, it saves lives. You cut my arm off, I'm going to need medical intervention straight up and down.
Yeah.
I just don't, as a person and an individual, don't necessarily go, okay, I have a problem. My first step is not to a pharmacy. My first step is to figure out what the root causes of those issues are and trying to address them. So I felt I needed to say that because I don't think human growth hormone is necessarily a bad drug. It absolutely has its place in medicine, and it absolutely has really incredible benefits. It's that anytime you introduce a foreign substance or a synthetic drug of any type, you have to always weigh the benefits to the benefits to the potential negative side effects. That is any pharmaceutical drug that you put in your body, any drug, over the counter and prescription.
Yeah.
Really great point.
Yeah. And if your doctor's just not automatically telling you what those things are, you should always be asking,
do they ever really? I mean, have you ever read side effect sheets on a medical drug panel? I know it's not everybody's job, but most of today's most common pharmaceutical drugs, people have no idea what the side effects are. I mean, look at birth control. I don't know if you're a proponent of birth control or not, but you're talking about a drug that literally causes all the issues we're talking about on the show right now. And you're on it for what, 30 years? Okay, cool. So you totally understand. Birth control has some of the most, every problem that people are looking to fix nowadays, if you're a female, it's almost can all be tied back to birth control. I'm not saying that it's everybody. I'm saying that it's very common.
Yeah. Huge problem.
Yeah. I mean, my doctor put me on it when I was, I guess, in college at the time. And
did they ever tell you what the side effects were going to be?
Nope. And then I just took myself off of it because I became a completely different person.
100%.
Yeah. And that's a great example because in some cases it is really helpful, but it should not be given out.
Like candy.
Yeah.
Candy.
100%. Look at antidepressants. Antidepressants.
Yep.
Antidepressants cause depression. It makes no sense. I mean,
most people
straight
have
up
no
and down.
idea.
Yeah.
Right. Suicidal thoughts right on the description there. I mean, just listen to a drug commercial one time and you kind of get the gist. But so your company has approached this in a much different way. The formulas are really unique. And I will say, when I first started working at a medical center back in Maryland, when I was living in Maryland in 2014, it was a new center. All the practitioners were new, beautiful store set up with all these supplements. And so I'm walking through because I love supplements. I'm like a supplement junkie. I always want to see what's available. And I started looking at different labels, and I come across this shelf that has all the bioprotein products. And I remember flipping over the bottles. I'm like, these are really interesting formulas. They're really unique. So I want to hear from you, like, how did this all begin, and what was the main driver to make these? If you can speak to that.
Nowadays, I can't. And nowadays, we really primarily focus on like 2 products. That's it. And the reason, because that is the lifeblood of the company. That is exactly where the company was founded upon, those principles and those basics. And this is light years ago. Well, over a decade ago of the first introductions of these formulas. But the main focus and the creation of these formulas were created by 2 brothers here in Tampa, Florida. They kind of really created a formula based on the science of growth factor use, natural growth factor use. And we'll get into growth factors here in a second, but growth factors are nothing new. They are in your body as we speak. They are cellular signaling devices. Okay. They tell cells what to do. Growth factors tell cells what to do. That's all they do. They go out in your blood and they go, let's do collagen, because all you guys' faces lit up when I said collagen cells. So your collagen cells are not going to magically just like replicate. Okay. Something has to tell your cells to do that. It doesn't just do it. Your body is this incredible machine, but everything has to have a trigger. Everything has to have an actuator. So growth factors are that actuator. They're that trigger. They create that effect. They create that signal. That's all that they are. Okay. So growth factors are in every mammal on Earth. All right. These guys basically utilized science that has been used by Chinese Olympic teams, Russian Olympic teams. I'm naming all super popular countries right now too, by the way, but Eastern European Olympic teams, right? These countries, Japan, that's a safe one. These countries that utilize and are, whether you like to believe it or not, are at the forefront of scientific discovery as well. And they've been using them for decades, since the early 60s, okay? Because growth factors are the end result of human growth hormone. Before your body uses the hormone, human growth hormone, okay, or growth hormone, it is created in the pituitary gland, it's sent to the liver, and it's transformed into, what do you think? Growth factors, okay? Because it's the chemical hormone that's being transformed by the liver into these cellular signals, which are creating the change. So if your human growth hormone is decreasing, all you have to do is reintroduce safely the actual cellular signals. You don't have to recreate the hormone. You only have to recreate the cellular signals, and you can introduce them into the body, which is what these scientists have been doing for decades, and you can elicit and cause the exact changes that you might be missing out on now. So that's kind of where the basics and functions of the company was started. That was their big thing. A lot of the products you've seen along the way, like any company, you're going to come out with new cool stuff, whatever. But what we did when we acquired the company is get back to the basics and the roots of like, this is the life-changing stuff. This is the stuff that people need to know about. This is the product that people don't have their hands on. And it's like this little company here in Tampa. And we're like, dude, people need to, and like I said earlier, I was a user, like I was an individual, I was a patient using these products, and they were like, awesome. This is 2014. And we're talking, years later. I'm just like, we gotta figure out how to get these products to individuals across the country. And now it's not even just a country. I mean, we get orders constantly from, we're huge in New Zealand and Australia, Japan, Sweden, Switzerland. It's been wild.
Wow. And how does this compare to peptides?
Peptides are a synthetic drug. So peptides are a synthetic drug. So you're introducing a drug into your system. The other thing about peptides, again, peptides have their place. However, peptides are designed for accelerated healing after an injury. You're not supposed to use them like over 3 weeks. So there's a whole other thing here that gets missed. However, also with peptides, a lot of peptides are not naturally occurring in nature, meaning peptides are synthetically created amino chains that don't naturally occur in your body. What they're doing is they're trying to make something better than the body exists. Whether you think it's better or whether you do not, that is up to you as a human individual and the information you get from your physician. However, they're not real. They're real, but you get what I'm saying. Like God didn't create them. Okay. You're coming up with these things on your own because you're trying to create new stuff. Well, I'm not interested in that personally. That's a personal thing. You don't know what's going to come of that when you start, what happened to Frankenstein? I mean, that guy didn't turn out so great. I mean, you started pulling stuff from all over the place. I mean, I've never used that analogy before, but that's a great analogy. That just popped up.
There we go.
I mean, it's possible that any biohacker could turn into Frankenstein if they're not supervised long enough, it's possible.
I just I'm not a big fan of taking something that's never been created, like never existed before, that wasn't created for the human body, and introducing it. You don't know what could happen. I'm not saying that it will. I'm not saying that it won't. That's the difference between peptides, synthetic peptides, and growth factors.
Great. Yeah. So let's talk about the ingredients that you put in there. This is a naturally occurring substance. Can you explain what it is, where it comes from?
Yeah, we literally extract it from another mammal. So we extract it from an American elk. I'm sure people are, familiar probably with deer antler velvet extract products. This is a little different. So technically, you're going to see a lot of the same names and hear me say a lot of the same lingo, but there's a very big difference in the process of acquiring actual growth factors out of a living, breathing organ and a product you might find in a 3-letter, store you find in a strip mall, which is picking up dead antlers, which are basically toenail shavings, pulverizing them, putting them in a capsule or a spray that has zero efficacy behind it. I recommend not using those products. They're worthless. The only thing they're good for is maybe getting cash back on a credit card you used to buy the products in the first place. But
that's probably the case for anything that's sold at that 3-letter word store that you're talking about.
They sell water there. It's cool.
In plastic bottles.
Fair. So yeah, anyway, there's a farm we have in the we utilize, I should say, in the northwestern part of the United States. Everything is domestic. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, elk antlers, they grow about 2 inches a day. They grow in every single year. Any cervidaean species, any cervidaean mammal, meaning antler-bearing mammals, those antlers grow in and fall out every single year. However, when they grow in, right, when they're literally growing from the skull of an animal, they are a living, breathing organ. They're like your arm. Okay, they're pulsating with actual live living growth factor stem cells, stem cell proteins, platelets, all kinds of good fun stuff. The same stuff that is in your body when you are healing a wound or just in your body naturally. So while they're in this velvet state, you can actually extract that living material, and you go through a similar process of a PRP type process where you sift out and you separate good material from bad. That's a whole nother thing about, other products you might find out there. There's a very big difference in quality and grade and understanding how to separate these types of living active ingredients. And then it goes to our simple process. And as a human being, you can ingest them and you can create those exact same cellular signals because you're just taking them directly. They go right into your bloodstream. You take it sublingually. It expresses the blood vessels in your mouth, and you can signal your body to make the positive changes that you're looking for.
As an animal lover, I have to ask, how is this done so it doesn't hurt the animal?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we get those questions all the time, believe me. So it's important to note that the animal actually lives 4 to 7 years longer than it would in the wild. So the reason that they are actually growing those antlers, okay, so those are only male animals, all right?
Okay.
They go through, so they grow in full, they go into a calcification state, meaning they harden. They basically turn into fingernails and bones, okay? Like they literally external bones, just think of it that way, but they're completely hardened. There's no longer any living material flowing through them. So they go through and they go into their mating season. They go into what's called the rut. So at one point, those antlers were growing inside of a velvet, literally what actually velvet is, so they can grow. It's a porous living substance. Anyway, they go through their rut. During that rut, they scrape off by themselves all of that, just the external covering to release the bone. They then use those antlers to fight other males for mating purposes, potentially to the death. So they're using them to kill each other. So what we're doing is we are removing them before they actually have the ability to calcify. And what's funny is if you lift an elk up underneath and they're all 4 feet, leave the ground, they immediately just go limp. It's weird. It's actually very weird, but it's done humanely. It's fine. They grow in and grow out every year. And instead we're kind of protecting them from themselves of, killing each other.
Yeah. It's interesting that the mating season is called the rut.
It's called the rut. Yep, it's called the rut.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they go through. You Google it. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. If you go and look at the actual photos of how they go through in nature, it's pretty gruesome. Actually, it's a lot more humane when we do it than when they do it. I mean, it's in nature. It's nature's metal. I mean, it's crazy.
I can imagine.
They use the antlers. They also use the antlers to scrape the earth. So they create what are called rubs and scrapes. So a rub is on the earth, and they make a large area with their just distressing of all the foliage and all of the materials on the earth floor, and they urinate and spray on it. So they let females know that they exist. They also do what's called a scrape, which is where they go to the trunk of a tree and they actually create abrasions on the tree. Again, spray, so they can let other males know where they exist, whose territory it is, and that females are aware that there's a male ready to go in the area.
Wow. So much to be learned by observing.
I grew up, what's crazy is I grew up in that space of, I spent a lot of time in Michigan, and we had a bunch of property up there, and I never knew, learning so much about deer when I was a kid, like a young kid, an early teenager, would ever play so much into my career later on. It's so wild how that stuff, how things happen like that for a reason. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. That is wild.
Circle.
So I'm always so curious how people discover things. Who discovered this? It's like, okay, like mushrooms. Somebody ate mushrooms one day and realized
somebody eventually did. Yeah.
It's like,
who knows?
But something like this, like the scraping and making sure you're getting it while it's velvet. Like how is this discovered? It's just wild to me.
That is a phenomenal question. I can't actually tell you and pinpoint a single individual who basically came up with this stuff. I will tell you that it gained a lot of popularity. If you want to really distill it all the way back, it has roots a millennia ago in ancient Chinese medicine. So literally 2,500 years ago, it was it was literally made into like they would use the antlers the exact same way and they would extract them. I'm sure it wasn't as safe it is and done humanely as it is now, but they would do the same thing and they would, try and pull material out of it. They were just doing it a very different way. So I can't tell you exactly how they were doing it, but that is where the roots of kind of the evolution of these products came from, all the way back into, ancient Chinese medicine. In fact, any Chinese medical practitioners would know it more formally as like Lurong is what it was called, Lurong. But yeah, so that's where the basics of it always goes back.
Cool.
Yeah.
The
So somebody
evolution of
2,000
medicine is
years
fascinating.
ago.
Yeah.
Somebody 2,000 years ago, Lauren.
Yeah. Great answer. So someone that is supplementing, is that the correct verbiage? Supplementing, it's a liquid, is that correct?
Yeah, you can use the
Do you
word
not like the word
supplement, I
supplement?
guess. I don't. And there's a reason why. It's not
Yeah,
that it's
tell us.
not, it's not that supplementing is a verb. So it doesn't really apply to any product and specifically. But however, I don't know. I work in an industry and I own a company in an industry where there's a lot of stuff I disagree with that goes on into it, which is part of the reason why we do things the way we do. And to be tied to be tied linearly to other brands or other companies that do things that I would never possibly ever let anything happen in my facilities go on and then be, categorized under a certain stigma of a word I'm not a huge fan of. We kind of fly in this area of, pharmaceutical drugs. If anybody who can't see me, I'm, making a table out of my hands, but pharmaceutical drugs at the top, supplements at the bottom. We fly really inside of this gray area underneath pharmaceuticals and above supplements. We're fully FDA registered. We're fully FDA compliant. We just, we don't really make products like those guys do. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens on in those places. In fact, most of those people don't actually even make their own products. It's just slapping a label on some other company.
Yeah.
Truth. To a lot of dirty secrets in the supplements.
Yeah. And a lot of those guys, actually, I get emails all the time to help them source their materials to very large companies that I'm sure listeners are probably familiar with. Sourcing their materials, getting them into the country, finding very specific ingredients, etc. And I will tell you that it's more times than not, those companies will not actually move forward with us because they refuse to pay what it actually costs for good quality, high grade, real materials that work. The price difference on materials that work and materials that do not it's not close by any stretch of the imagination. You're talking a difference of thousands and thousands of dollars between kilos, which is 2.2 pounds. So in some ingredients we won't get into specific ingredients, but some really great raw materials are $4,500, $5,000 per kilo. And then some of the companies that are piggybacking off of science like that are only spending $44 a kilo. So it's literally a 10x difference.
Wow. That's frightening.
Scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Well, we appreciate all that you go through and obviously all the extra money you're spending to make sure that it's good quality stuff. So I would love to get into like the applications of the two products.
Sure.
I'll let you pick which one you want to start with.
I mean, we can start with BioPro Plus. That's my favorite. That's our like coup de grace.
Yeah.
Great.
Share more.
I mean, it's a non-synthetic alternative to human growth hormone. So it's simply a growth factor complex. So everything we just talked about growth factors and sucking them out of animals and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, you're taking the end result. You're taking the end result of human growth hormone directly into your system, and you can signal those cells that may not be getting the signals that they are anymore, depending upon your age or your lack thereof of, creating human growth hormone or their end result growth factors. You can signal those cells. The ones that are most popular, we talked about collagen, 3 times. That's a cell. It's stimulated with growth factors like fibroblast growth factor and epidermal growth factor, as well as IGF-1, which is insulin-like growth factor 1. Those are all very popular. But I mentioned 3. There's also 10 other growth factors that are are constituents within our formulas as well that help metabolic function. So the actual metabolism, it helps to improve insulin sensitivity or how your body uses food, whether it's going to use it as an energy source or store it as fat. It helps with muscle cell differentiation. So what's really cool about insulin-like growth factor 1 is IGF-1 can actually multiply and differentiate muscle cells instead of just enlarging them, which is what most people are used to. The growth factors literally increase and are huge in your immune system. They can increase the actual number of T cells that you have, which are killer T cells. That is what kills viruses and kills, a foreign virus or antigen or whatever it is in your system. It kills those. You have to have T cells, so it actually can increase those. It's important to probably talk about what low growth factors also look like as well. So when your body is low in growth factors, a low growth factor serum level in your blood can be tied directly to anxiety, depression, weight gain, Parkinson's disease, ALS, all kinds of neurological issues. Diabetes is a huge one. Erectile dysfunction, those two are also linked. Sexual dysfunction, lack of libido. What's really crazy about growth factors, nobody seems to talk about these days, especially physicians, a lot of them don't even know it, is that you cannot exert the full benefits of testosterone or estrogen, synthetic or natural, without adequate growth hormone or growth factor levels in your body. So if you're taking TRT, we get so many guys that are taking TRT, or women on menopause that are taking products, and they're like, they just still don't feel good. Well, nobody ever addressed the fact that their, IGF-1 serum levels or growth factor levels are so low that, well, it doesn't matter what you take, because you're never going to be able to absorb it the proper way. So anytime you start looking at, fat gain, you don't understand where it's coming from, your sleep sucks, all of those can typically be related to growth hormone deficiency, low growth hormone, or the end result, really low growth factors. So we just replace them. We just give you what your body's missing. It's really simple. You just take the growth factors directly. You take them every day, and boom, there you go. We're never gonna turn you into the Hulk. You're not gonna take these as Bruce Banner, wake up tomorrow as the Hulk and blast through the wall in the gym. That's not what we do. We help you to maximize what you're. Yeah, a lot of guys are like, oh, click off. Well, it is what it is. Yeah. Well,
and so this is
we
something
just don't do that.
You take every day. Do you have to cycle on and off at all?
No cycling. That's the cool part. There's no cycling. Well, cycling is only needed when you're taking an exogenous hormone. And why do you have to cycle? You have to cycle because you've shut off your natural production. So you're trying to respur your natural production again. When you're not introducing an exogenous hormone and you're not introducing a synthetic drug, your body doesn't shut off the natural production. So you can just take it. You can just take the growth factors. You don't have, that's what's called negative feedback loop. You mentioned it a little earlier. You don't have negative feedback loop. We have no recorded cases of that. It doesn't spur a negative feedback loop. That's the beauty of it.
Would measuring growth factors like IGF-1 be a good indication that this is changing levels, or is it just symptomology?
1,000%. You should do both. Yeah. You should do both. Okay. Well, because you can't actually test for human growth hormone. It pulsates, and it pulsates at different times of the day. So what you do is you test IGF-1, which is a serum level in your blood. So that's what you would recommend doing. There's different ranges for different age ranges, different levels. It's a number-based system, very similar to how you gauge testosterone levels. But nobody seems to know, nobody asked their physician to add it on a blood panel. It's not found on a normal blood panel. So if you're going to look for your blood work, you're not going to find it. And if you do, then I guess you have a good doctor who's looking for different things, but it's just not included.
Rarely see it on client labs. Rarely, maybe 2 out of 100.
It's just, medicine is always guided in a specific direction depending upon the times we live in and what's important to different people. And to be fair to physicians, it's also not fair to it's always okay to hold people accountable and to ask questions, but it's also not fair to attack. Physicians are humans like anybody else. Think about what they have to go through. Look how many things are on that panel. Now this guy or gal has to read and maintain all of these things for you, and he has to do it for 78 other people today. So it's at the same time,
big job.
It's your responsibility to be very knowledgeable about what you want and what you're looking for from your physician, because you guys are coaches, right? You can't help anybody unless they tell you what they want help with. So it's also the responsibility and the onus also needs to be on the patient or the individual looking for these things. I just want to, I still have to back up my physicians here, because there's still a ton of great physicians out there, always have been, always will be. But you got to help them out. You got to give them a little bit of a direction to move.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that you're sharing that. And that's the goal of the podcast, right? Is to get people to be, their own biohacker or their own scientist or the CEO of their body. Right. Physicians are doing amazing things, but we are complicated.
Nobody's coming to save you. We say that all the time. It's you got to save yourself first and foremost. Nobody's showing up at your door, kicking you into gear. You got to figure this stuff out.
That is true.
Yep.
So I'm curious a little bit more about the specific metabolic health benefits. There's a spectrum with diabetes, and there could be different applications there. Would you say there are different applications with your products as far as like, if we're way down the spectrum of diabetes, like pancreas function has completely diminished, do you need more of it? Would you do like a different dosage there?
So diabetes, and please, if you're going out to buy our product, I'm not saying that our product cures diabetes. So let me just say that straight up and down. Okay.
Sure.
I will tell you anecdotally that diabetics who have used our product literally, okay, I'll tell a story because it's better when you have stories. So there was a gentleman I used to work out at a gym. It was a performance-based gym, lots of athletes, stuff like that. And there was a gentleman who is in his late 30s, early 40s. He manages all of the ticket sales for a huge pro team around here. So he's a popular guy. And I was talking to him one day, and he was an ex-athlete. He played college football. I believe he's a wide receiver. His name we'll keep his name close. But so anyway, he is a diabetic, has the pump, everything. He works out every day. He's super health conscious. I mean, this is something that's pretty much out of his control. So anyway, I'm like,
dude, one or two.
He's diabetes 1, where he has the pump and he has insulin, et cetera. So he's not, it wasn't caused by his his diet, exercise, lifestyle. Yeah. Correct. This is just something that this guy, kind of got the crap end of the stick for. So anyway, I'm like, hey, this works for all these guys. I had no idea about like diabetes and stuff like that, me personally. So this is me doing this outside of work. I'm just talking to him, and I just gave him our product, our BioPro Plus product. And it was actually less of a strength, and it didn't have some of the other ingredients we include in it for nutrient absorption. But anyway, didn't think anything of it. He comes back a week later and he's like, I don't know what you gave me, but I've never felt this good. I've never felt this good. And I was like, oh, really? Why? What happened? What are you talking about? And I was trying to figure out if it was just human performance, if it was performance in the gym. He's like, no, man, my energy. I feel great, clarity of mind, etc. Well, I'm not a diabetic. Okay. I have very little experience with diabetes. I've been very lucky in that realm. But I have to figure out, why did this happen? Like, what's going on here? Because to me, I mean, there's an opportunity there, right? I can help people. So I start doing the research, and you can specifically connect diabetes to a low insulin IGF-1 level. So if you can increase that level, okay, I'm not saying abnormally increase it. I'm saying increase it back into better ranges. You immediately help the energy, the focus, the blood sugar. The science is behind blood sugar utilization. So you can go Google these studies. You can go look up the NIH. You can do all this stuff because they exist. But the science is between increased and better adequate levels of IGF-1 will increase the utilization of blood sugar in your body. So what are diabetics struggling with? Or struggling with a average range, whether it's too high or too low, an average range of blood sugar utilization. So that's what happened in this man. Now his case now, this is years ago, his case now is not a one-off. Now we can tie a lot of these guys that are super overweight, guys and gals, to incredible weight loss, that they're on like early onset diabetes, like they're not full-blown diabetic but this is caused lifestyle and, diet and exercise. But when they're starting to hit these levels by addition of these products, literally they will come back. Same thing. We never coach anybody. We're like, just tell us what happened. Same thing, 1 to 2 weeks, like clockwork every time. I can't believe how good I feel. I haven't felt this good about it. My anxiety, depression, things are lifted. These are their words, not mine. Anxiety, depression, focus. Some of the guys are like, I feel like I'm living on HD. You can directly relate this to how their bodies are utilizing blood sugar, especially in patients that are suffering from insulin sensitivity. It's all related back to growth factors, or lack thereof, I should say.
Oh, yeah. I love stories like this. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good story time.
Yeah.
Incredible. Can you share a little bit more about the delivery of the product? Because this is unique, and I think people should hear this.
So I'm not a big fan of needles. I don't like needles. I don't know that many people that do, and typically people that do, you probably should.
No one loves needles.
Not a fan.
I hear you. So like that's another thing. It's like I'm not a big fan of needles. I'm not a huge believer in depending upon what it is. I'm not a huge believer in topical application of stuff, right? I'm not talking about skin serums and stuff like that, but guys will know what I'm talking about. And so will women. Now they make hormone products that are, epidermal delivery. I'm not a huge believer in that as well. And a lot of physicians agree with me. So there are only other two ways to take it. You can take it rectally, which I'm not in that business at all, or sublingually. So we make our products sublingual. They're liquid delivery. You put right underneath your tongue, and they express the blood vessels in your mouth. You absorb them directly into your bloodstream. So we do our best to completely, shy away from degeneration of active ingredients in the digestive tract, meaning, just swallowing a pill. I'm not a big believer in pills and capsules. In order to, encapsulate products, you have to put them in a whole nother product, which is a whole nother ingredient and all kinds of fun stuff. Plus your stomach acid is designed to destroy anything that hits it. So we do sublingual delivery, 90 seconds under the tongue, call it a day.
I love that. I mean, most people have such disrupted gut health that they're probably not absorbing any of the supplements they're swallowing. So I'm a big fan of sublingual. And what about the alcohol? Is it alcohol in it that makes it?
Yeah, it's an organic grape alcohol. So that's what's helping to express the blood vessels. So what that's doing is that is opening the blood vessels in your mouth to absorb the active ingredients.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that in other sublinguals, and I am a huge fan of those.
The other thing with and why we do a lot of that, and I hate to give away all of our secrets here, but when you look at preservatives, there's only certain ways you can preserve active ingredients and not degenerate them. So anytime if you see on the back of labels like sodium benzoate, citric acid, etc., number one, it's important to know that those are mold. Okay, that's mold. That's what you're putting in your body. Nobody knows this.
Citric acid is always mold.
Potassium sorbate, citric acid, and sodium benzoate, I think I said. But yeah, they're molds. So what you're doing is that's what's preserving the product. So we don't include any of those additional ingredients. Plus, not citric acid specifically, but plus citric acid will destroy the active ingredients. It's an acid. It literally destroys stuff. So so I don't believe in any of that. So we can't use that stuff. So one of the only ways to do it is it's preserved in organic grape alcohol.
Great. Awesome. Can you share a little bit more about the sleep supplement?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I personally feel like I sleep amazing with it. I remember when I first met you.
Have you even used our newest version? Have you used our newest version that comes in the vials and stuff like that?
It's whatever I got from you in December.
Oh yeah, then you have it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
that's the best.
You were like,
I haven't. I need this.
I know.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best product ever. Literally.
How dare you?
I love that product because we call it our gateway drug here, because it's hard to understand when you're spending the kind of money that our products do cost. They're still at a fraction of the cost of synthetic stuff, but it's not inexpensive. We don't make protein powders here. Like, we don't make $30 products. That's not what we do. We make products that work. We make products that are that have literal, like, real efficacy behind them, not crap you're shipping in from overseas that does nothing. So it is what it is. The sleep product helps individuals to understand how fast these products work and they get buy-in for our company so fast because it works tonight. It's not 6 weeks down the road. It's, this is boom, it worked. And it works every night thereafter. So what we do is we just help you to maximize the NREM and REM sleep cycles in your circadian rhythm, meaning the cycles where your body secretes 70 to 90% of all of its hormones is during those sleep cycles. Well, if those sleep cycles are interrupted, if you're getting inadequate time in them, if you're waking up, 2-3 times, any longer than one time a night, your sleep sucks. Sorry, it's true. Your sleep sucks. And if your sleep sucks, everything else sucks. I know you were talking about, like, before the show, you're like, our listeners are really smart and stuff. Well, I'm not. So we're going to just stay with it. If you're waking up more than once, your sleep sucks, period, end of story. So your other stuff's going to suck. If you can't lose weight, if you haven't looked at sleep, boom, let's start there. If you feel like crap all day, let's start at sleep. If you have depression, anxiety, anything, start with sleep. It's the easiest and most free thing you can possibly start with. And it is the most underutilized tool in every form of athletic performance, of human performance, of weight loss, of any type of disease or neurological disorder. I mean, sleep is huge. So anywho, that's what we do. We just help people to get better sleep, faster sleep. We like to say it helps you get 8 hours of sleep in just 6.
Yeah. It is wild that, like, the best things are free. sleep,
I hate to say it. I mean,
fasting,
we sell stuff.
exercise, and then we have the supplement industry that is so much money. It's like,
Yeah, they're not free though. They're not free from, they're free monetarily, but you have to invest in them, and you have to invest your time in them. Getting people to better their sleep means they're going to have to adjust their schedule, and you're going to have to not watch whatever lame show is on Netflix. You're going to have to not do something that keeps you up. You're going to have to calm it down and put an investment of your time in there. The same with exercise. One of the things I always like to teach young entrepreneurs or guys that work for me, young people, because it seems to be lost a lot, including on me, it was lost on me for years, is the power of delayed gratification. Meaning anything that's worth anything is not going to be an immediate gratification. You have to delay that gratification. So that's where your biggest payoffs are. Meaning with sleep, if we can relate it back to that, is you're going to have to not do some stuff that you normally would like to do. You know, I know people love binging stuff on Netflix. Okay, schedule it differently. Schedule it differently. Don't watch the last episode. Okay, leave one for tomorrow, and get an
so
hour
much
or
sweeter.
two extra sleep. I don't think people realize how much weight they could lose so fast if they got adequate sleep. That's the fastest way to lose weight. 100%.
I know. Yeah, really good.
Try telling somebody that. Try telling to somebody that. But that's why we sell our products, right? If you don't want to put in the work, I guess you just go buy our products, which is fine. That's what I do for a living, and we'll help you get there faster.
Sure, but exponential benefits if you do both. How about that?
I mean, anytime you instill discipline in your life, and scheduling and understanding how to follow those things, you're always going to reap 100x your return on investment, 1,000%. If you take anything away from this podcast, invest in yourself, learn the act of discipline. It will give you so much more back than you'll ever realize. And it spurs through the rest of your life. It really does. Just start with one thing. Start with your sleep schedule and watch what else falls into line.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Speaking my language.
1,000.
Are you disciplined? Are you a disciplined gal, Renee?
I am with my sleep because I 1,000% feel the difference. I'm a different person.
Were you not before? Well. Were you not before? Is this like a new thing or a relatively new thing? Or was this like, did you ever really struggle with it?
So like high school and college, I was like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, because I was just like type A, go, worked all my way through school. And then as soon as I graduated from undergrad, I just crashed and burned. The listeners have heard this story before. And it forced me to overcompensate. I was then sleeping 12, 13 hours a night to make up for lost time. So now I just know that I need to prioritize my sleep over everything else. It's more important to me than my nutrition, my exercise, my supplements. Sleep is my number one.
I agree.
Yeah. I really respect people that wake up early and do their hard workouts, but I'm always going to choose sleep over the early workout.
I think the workouts though. Okay. So I was talking to my business partner about this because he's not an early workout guy too, but we're working on some new discipline stuff. And I don't think that, so every Instagram influencer on Instagram is going to freak out when I say this, because it's going to completely derail all of their coaching programs. But waking up at 5 a.m. is not necessary for success. Now, let me tell you that I did subscribe, and I did for a very long time, waking up at 4:30 a.m. for a long time when I was building previous ventures that I had in previous businesses, and a lot when I first acquired this business and had to reorganize and reframe and rebuild the whole thing, was subscription to waking up very early. Now, the reason that I did that was because I knew that I could get the most powerful stuff done before anybody would start blowing my phone up.
Sure.
However, the reason why people talk about waking up early in those early workouts is just to get the hard stuff out of the way first and to start off with a success. And more importantly, it's to, again, delay gratification, like having to put yourself through something that you don't want to do and understanding to get those things handled. It will waterfall or go downstream into the rest of your life. However, I will tell you that type of lifestyle, if you want any type of life with a family, with all of those things, you cannot do that every day. You cannot go to bed every day at 10 and 11 p.m. You cannot wake up 4:30 after that. I did that for years, building actual fitness gyms. And I will tell you, it will destroy your life. So yes and no. The discipline and the basics, yes, you need to execute on those, but you will not be able to operate the best that you can, burning the candle at both ends, thinking you're somehow gaining an advantage on somebody else that you think is doing that or something. It doesn't. The math doesn't actually work out. I think it's a great practice and exercise for individuals to prove that they can put themselves through something that sucks, because it sucks terribly. But it's not necessary for success. It is absolutely not necessary for success. You can bang your head on this brick wall for 16 hours a day at work and literally bang your head. You're not going to make a dent in the brick. You can work, but the same guy can work for 4 hours and he's just so much better at what he's doing, or executes so much better and stays organized and makes it happen. And he's going to fly by you because he gets 12 hours. Look at me doing the math in my head of anyways. 12 hours extra of like rest and recovery to blow you out of the water for every 4 hours. This comes with a disclaimer. Don't think you can just work for 4 hours though as well and not do anything. There's always a give and a take, but that's something I wish I would have learned earlier in my career, to be very honest with you.
Oh my gosh. Us too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, Dustin, I feel like we're gonna have to do a part 2 about discipline, lifestyle practices, and behavioral change.
You probably won't want to do that, dude. I'm gonna make a lot of people mad listening to your show.
No, we're in the business of making people mad. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Stir things up.
You want to hear 2-hour rants about discipline, motivation, scheduling, understanding, what real life looks like and what you have to do. You're gonna have a whole.
No, we love
show.
that. We should do a round table. We'll do that. We're gonna put that on the calendar. Just to circle back to your company, is there anyone that should not be using these products?
100%. So number one, anybody, we get this question too. It's like, how young can we use it? It's like, you don't need to. You don't need to use this product. You're 18 years old. You don't need it. Don't waste your money. Your body is, flowing with these products naturally. Okay. You don't have to use the product. It's a waste of cash. If you want to go buy it, it's going to make you feel good and give you a placebo effect. That's fine. But I'm telling you right now, it's a waste of your cash. The sleep product, no, that works for everybody. But for BioPro Plus, our main product, there's no need. 18, 19, 20 years old, it's a waste of cash.
Great.
Awesome.
Good to know.
Right. So I guess at 35, I still need it.
Yeah. Well, no, we all do.
I'm like the start of the decline. So
yeah. Well,
I'm already down the hill.
Up. Yeah. Join the club. Thank you very much for saying that.
Well, Dustin, you have already shared so much amazing wisdom and advice for our listeners, but if we can just ask for one final thing to leave with our audience, maybe something that they can start working on today, what would that be?
I think I would, actually piggyback of kind of my rant from prior. Well, I'm jumbling words now, but from 5 seconds ago about discipline and how powerful discipline is and how powerful it's compounding. So no matter what it is you're struggling with in life, or you're trying to make specific changes, make a change that you're going to commit to. Make the change to scheduling it, making it to number one priority, and sticking with it and not allowing other things to interfere. Make that your primary specific goal. And if anything interferes with it before you do it, like if you're thinking about it, then you don't do that. You have one of two ways to go, and just push out anything that does not align with that specific goal, and you'll get there.
Amazing. Great.
Love
Thank
it.
you for that.
You're awesome. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
I appreciate the opportunity, ladies. Thank you so much.
And for everyone listening, we will link to the website, bioproteintech.com. And then you're also on Instagram, BioProtein Tech. We'll link to all that in the show notes for today. Instagram
is our big spot because that's just where all the guys and all the gals and stuff use it. They go there. That's where it lives. They're a lot of times they're more vocal than we are, and they answer questions for us before we ever can. So you can actually see a real, these guys don't get paid to do what they do on our page. It's really cool. So if you want to see what the product looks like in the hands of guys and gals that actually use it, go over to Instagram. It's right there. You can see it for yourself.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Love that.
All right. Check it out. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dustin, for joining us today. We're so grateful for all your time with us.
I appreciate it, Renee, and I appreciate it, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
And thank you to everyone that tuned in today. We'll see you next time.